Bushes rustle, dunes vibrate, the marsh bubbles. Nature is a symphony of procedural sound, the echoes of a myriad organisms dancing in unison. Most of the time, these small ambient sounds are just the wind, or small critters scuttling through the lower layers. But ever so often, these sounds are traces. The quiet yet stern reminder of those that truly lay claim to the lands. The hidden emperors of the old world. People often assume that the natural world has a pecking order. That, no matter the circumstances, some creatures will always sit at the bottom of the ecological chain, destined to be bullied and humiliated by their superiors. It is a twisted view of the food chain, but a common one. For example, many civilians and even hunters assume bird wyverns, a clade of monsters entirely contained in the suborder Avepoda, are always at the bottom of any ecosystem. They are skittish, they are fragile, and they generally lack the advanced defensive abilities of true wyvern. But such an outlook is truly foolish. For many of the most inconspicuous bird wyvern live a life of objective ecological success. One must only look upon the Old World continent to see this in action. All across the land, the only true consistency is that every ecosystem has its own bespoke bird wyvern. More specifically, the Old World is thoroughly saturated by a clade of monsters called the Old World Raptors. This clade, also called Vetumundora, is a superfamily of the infraorder runner wyvern. Runner wyvern are bird wyvern defined by being wingless and bipedal, with their front limbs having articulate hands and claws to differing degrees across the families. Most of them also form packs, which is somewhat unusual for large monsters and wyverns. This group can be further split into three categories: the New World Raptors, the Old World Raptors, and the Dog Wyvern. The Old World Raptors comprise of three families, all of which are entirely exclusive to the main Old World continent. More specifically, Old World Raptors are defined by having a more slender build compared to the other families in the clade. They also form much larger packs on average, and they all grow crests and other socially relevant body structures directly on top of their heads as opposed to somewhere else on their bodies. The most prolific and well-known family of Old World Raptors is the Veloci. In many ways, they are the poster child of Vetumundora, being both abundant and fairly present even near civilized regions. Their thin bodies are covered in bright blue overlapping scales that can protect them from harm, and their long, beak-like mouths are filled with sharp teeth. At the top of their heads, the Veloci grow an orange crest that distinguishes their rank within the pack. The larger the crest, the more authority the Veloci holds. Most Veloci are somewhat small, with a pretty diminutive crest. These are called Velociprey, and are the natural form of the species. This is true for most Old World Raptor species in general, where the smaller ones are often called prey. Velociprey form large packs that prowl the green and mild regions of the old continent, being particularly active in the southern Schrade region. When the pack spots something that demands their intervention, like prey or an intruder, the Velociprey engage in one of the most bizarre hunting strategies seen in the area. All Veloci, no matter how small, grow one enlarged claw on their feet, its edge being significantly more deadly than any other weapon the species possesses. In combat, Velociprey begin surrounding their target, vocalizing aggressively while hopping around it in an attempt to cause confusion. Then, one after another, the Velociprey will attempt to leap over their target, aiming to lacerate it from above with their extended foot claws. By doing this repeatedly, a pack of Velociprey can easily shred an opponent to ribbons. But such a hunting strategy requires a leader. One key aspect of Old World raptors is that their social hierarchies are organized around alpha leaders, so-called drones. These drones are large individuals who have their bodies altered through hormonal flushes when they prove themselves capable of leading the pack. In the Veloci, every pack of Velociprey is led by a large Velocidrome. Its large orange crest describes its dominance, and the Velocidrome is a shrewd leader. While it may hunt directly alongside the Velociprey, Velocidromes are also known to send out small groups of their brethren to scout out an area. When a Velocidrome does join in battle, it uses its increased size and additional slashing claws on its hands to deal the killing blow. Its modified vocal organ, called a screamer sac, allows it to issue complex commands to its pack, further increasing their deadliness. The Veloci are, perhaps more so than any other monster, extremely closely tied to humans. Their abundance near human settlements makes them a serious threat to livestock and farms, and thus culling their numbers is considered a regular task for hunters. But they are not merely pests. Veloci scales are highly versatile in blacksmithing, and the skin under the scales is quite valuable as well. Their bodies provide numerous materials that have become cornerstones of the Schradian trade economy. In fact, historically, it is not an understatement to say that the history of the Schrade region would have played out drastically differently if the Veloci hadn't existed and hadn't provided much of the initial economic value that eventually led traders, merchants, and hunters to the area. As the Veloci were being studied initially, their lives presented one mystery that no guild scholar could solve at the time. Every so often, a white Velociprey would be sighted, identical to its brethren in everything but coloration, its scales a paler blue that teeters on pure white. It was not sexual dimorphism, as it was known that Velociprey looked the same whether they're male or female, and it was not albinism, since the eyes remained unchanged. For a long time, these white Velociprey were a mystery, one that would see its solution arrive from the other side of the world. In the northeast of the old continent lie the Furahia Mountains, a harsh and frigid landscape ruled by towering peaks and ice-laden plains. Few settlements exist here. It wasn't until fairly recently that this area was fully charted and subsequently saturated with research expeditions. Many new species were recorded for the first time, and among them, a new type of Old World raptor, a white species of Velociprey. This discovery finally explained the white Velociprey in Schrade. This discoloration was likely a common mutation that continues to appear in regular Veloci, and that, many generations ago, caused some populations affected by that mutation to migrate and then speciate into their own new species. This mutation likely increased the affected Veloci's cold resistance, hence why the emergent population found their new home here in Furahia. Following this revelation, the newly discovered bird wyvern was classified as another species of the Veloci family, but given its own common name, the Gia. The Gia wear their close relation to the Veloci on their sleeves, as they resemble their cousins very strongly. Their discolored skin and different colored crest are the main visual differences. Behaviorally, however, the Gia display some more distinct characteristics. Their basic social structure and hunting methods are generally the same. Packs of Gia prey that kill by lacerating prey with their foot claws, coordinated and ruled by an alpha male, the Geodrome. There are, however, two key differences. For one, the Gia underwent an adaptation that allows them to use their screamer sac to store and cool down liquid. This icy mix can then be spit at prey, where it immediately freezes due to the ambient temperatures. Using this projectile attack, Gia first freeze their prey in place before commencing their signature leap assault. The Geodrome is even more proficient at this attack, able to spit out blobs of freezing liquid with ease. This ability has, by contrast, never been observed in white velociprey in Schrade, which is generally seen as evidence that the Gia population split off from the Veloci some time ago and developed this freezing projectile ability separately from the mutation to their skin. The other main difference lies in their social structure. Veloci live in decently sized packs, led by a single Velocidrome, and are hostile to other Veloci packs. But the Gia have been observed to actually cooperate across packs, even fusing two packs together to form a mega pack, led by two Geodromes simultaneously. This tendency for cooperation might be a consequence of the icy environment of Furahia. When energy is precious and hard to replenish due to a lack of food, it would be foolish to waste it on territorial disputes with the equally hungry of your own species, which is already predisposed to social behavior. Instead, by banding together, the Gia maximize their effectiveness and are able to take down larger prey, feeding the entire pack reliably. While the Veloci live close to humans, and the Gia were actively sought out to be researched, the other two prominent species of Old World raptors are much more reclusive. And we all ought to be thankful for that. For they are both fierce predators, and one of them is considered a walking nightmare to most fledgling hunters. South of the Schrade region, on the southwestern peninsula, lies Sekumea, a massive desert region where only the strongest survive. In this hot wasteland, one species of the supposedly weak Old World raptor manages to thrive: the Gen. Similar in their general build to the Veloci, the Gen are covered in a much tighter coat of scales, colored in dull yellows, oranges, and greens. Their crests are not one single massive structure, but rather two angled sails. Most strikingly, the Gen possess two massive fangs on their upper jaws, which are always proudly on display. These fangs are the source of the terror they inspire. Lacking the distinct toe claw of the Veloci, the Gen hunt using a different strategy: utter mayhem. When the pack spots a target, every member descends upon it one after another with one goal only: pierce the victim's skin with their fangs. Because in their fangs, and in lesser concentration in the Gen's saliva itself, lies a powerful paralytic venom, able to fully immobilize creatures 10 times more massive than the Gen. The pack's main objective is to get that venom into their target, which instantly ends the fight. To that end, the mighty leader of the pack, the Gendrome with its enlarged crests and longer fangs, commands its brethren into fierce battle, a braying and screeching mass of fang and venom. These hunts are so chaotic that the tightly overlapping scale coats of the Gen are believed to be as seamless as they are to protect them from accidentally paralyzing each other. Once the target is fully envenomated and unable to move, the nightmare begins. Gen are not particularly patient, and will immediately begin to rip and tear into their bounty, which is usually still alive at that point. Gen prey venom is a muscular toxin which paralyzes the body, and only the body. The mind remains active, able to hear, see, and feel pain. The victim is thus forced to watch and feel themselves be eaten alive as the Gen pack begins digging into them, usually starting around the abdominal area. It could be hours before death finally sets in. A truly horrifying way to go, and a core reason as to why research into this particular species remains so scarce. One oddity that has been observed despite this difficulty is that Gen prey seem to be able to act without the leadership of a Gendrome, as they are much more widespread than their leader. The small Gen prey can be found all over Sekumea, and have even been sighted in the swamps near Dondorma, much further north, while Gendrome are generally only found in the dunes near the desert town of Rekusara. It isn't quite clear why this is the case, but some scholars have suggested that the immense efficacy of the paralytic Gen venom is just so strong that the small Gen prey can make do on their own, if need be. While the Gen prowl the dry lands of the old continent, the fourth species of Old World raptors sticks to the most humid zones on the landmass. It is the rarest member of the family, and perhaps the most bizarre one. The Io are in many ways an odd sight. For one, they do not have scales in the traditional sense. Instead, their bodies are covered in moist, leathery red skin that is not quite as resistant to claw and sword as a coat of scales would be, with scales only being present in a scant few places on their bodies. However, this hide allows for extremely sophisticated temperature and moisture regulation, allowing the Io to live in hot, humid climates effortlessly, and even filter out waterborne bacteria and other harmful substances. What is equally as unusual is the Io's head, an odd, curved mass of porous tissue, the crest directly fused into the head, and a small mouth with very few needle-shaped teeth. Under the lower jaws, on their throats, these wyverns grow a solid lump, their infamous venom sac. Io are highly toxic in every sense of the word, as they develop and concentrate an extremely powerful venom in their throats, ready to be spat at any unlucky target. Like all Old World raptors, the Io also group up into packs of Io prey, led by one massive Iodrome and its enlarged, huge crest. Unlike the Gen, however, Io prey packs are completely reliant on their drome, and are known to disperse if their leader is slain. The Iodrome commands the Io prey during their hunts, which are focused on dousing their target with venom. This is achieved through a two-tier assault. The Io prey leap around the target, disorienting it while spraying it with small amounts of venom, weakening it continuously. Once the target is so tired that it will not be able to evade an oncoming attack, the Iodrome will play its riskiest card and vomit a massive amount of its stored venom onto the target. Producing the venom is time-consuming, so this move is reserved for when it is sure to hit. But once it does, the fight is over. Io venom is so powerful that it can even affect true wyverns. It is in fact considered a case of over-evolution, as this degree of toxicity is complete overkill for the Io's usual targets: giant insects. The reason the species lacks claws and combat teeth and focuses on venom in the first place is believed to be to successfully kill neopterons without destroying their delicate insectoid bodies. In the process of specializing into this niche, the Io have developed into extremely dangerous toxin factories. Their venom even has a few additional quirks to it. For example, it completely negates the scent of anything it kills, meaning that no other creature can sniff out the kill and come to steal it from the Io. Not that anyone would really try in the first place. Since they pretty much exclusively eat prey that is saturated in toxins, the Io are entirely immune to most poisons and are extremely sturdy in general. An Iodrome can easily shake off multiple hits from another monster without flinching. More crucially, especially for hunters and researchers, because they so often ingest their own toxic compounds, every single body part of the Io is positively doused in toxicity. These wyverns are deadly to the touch, a defense mechanism in the wild, and an all-or-nothing trial for eager blacksmiths, bent on using the valuable bones and hides of the Io for armor and weapons. Only experts are trusted with the poison removal process. The cunning craftsman will not throw the venom away, but instead use it to enhance their next client's weapons. At a hefty price increase, of course. It is tempting to categorize the world, to rank its creatures, to think of them as unilaterally superior or inferior to each other. It is all too easy to look at the gawking, awkward bird wyverns and assume them to be at the bottom of all things. But reality is rarely so easy. While they may lack wings, spikes, and sophisticated elemental abilities, the Old World Raptors are ravenous specialists that thrive in the niches they have carved for themselves. And those that find themselves staring down a Veloci, being bit by a gen, or being suffocated by the venom of the Io, would certainly not call these wyvern weak. Next time on Monster Hunter Ecology. It lurks in the caves. Its squelching steps announce its horrific parade. It sees no light, it sees no land, it sees nothing at all. But it will find you all the same. A jittering maw, ready to drag you into darkness and snuff out your life, one scream at a time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the second episode of Monster Hunter Ecology. Quick reminder that if you enjoy this kind of content, please do consider subscribing and liking the video, and perhaps even signing up for the Patreon like these fine people here. A very special thank you to Fiction Ape, AJ Rivera, Alistair, Arcturian711, Claire Miboun, Danilo Villavicencio, Dissy, Emperor Eevee, Gang Greatest, Geo, Hubble Mirror 123, Hashi, Hui Hui, Jacob Bennett, Jameson Tate, Magenta Magenta, Lisrick, Makot02, Mr. Pyramid, Mr. Meander, Niels Schlutter, Orbital, Pede Fuego, Peroscoco, Person 212, Project Iceman, Rambling Robin, Russell, Suruka, Terrador, Oakwood Tree, Iron Camel, Courage, and Sir Newt Newt. Thank you all again, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. Stay well, my friends.